Hi, my name's Lynne and I work for the Children, Youth and Family team of the Methodist Church. It's been a tough year and things are about to change again. For some of you, you will have just gone back to school after being homeschooled for a long time. Some of you are about to go back to school, and some of you are children of key workers, and so you will have been at school for a long time, enjoying some peace and quiet, and you're about to be inundated with all your classmates returning again. And some of you might be feeling a bit anxious about these changes. So I've been asked to produce this short video with 3 top tips for how we can look after our feelings and look after our brains during times of change and times of transition. So, top tip number 1, give yourself a break. It's okay if you're feeling a little bit more tired than usual. It's okay if you're feeling overwhelmed. It's okay if you're feeling a little bit emotional. We've all been living for the past 12 months in a state of what we call fight or flight. Imagine that you're walking through a wood and you know that there's a big, scary, hungry bear on the loose. It's a bit like that. You're in high alert, but instead of the big, scary bear, it's an invisible virus that poses a real threat to you and to the people that you love. And that takes its toll. That's going to mean that you're going to be tired. It's going to mean that you're going to be feeling a little bit more emotional than usual. So if you find yourself needing to go to bed a bit earlier, needing to take a nap on a weekend, or just watching TV and crying at a random advert for silly reasons, then just tell yourself it's okay and that that's a natural response to what we've just lived through for the past 12 months. This will pass, and we just need to be a little bit kinder to ourselves as we look towards the light at the end of the tunnel. So tip number 2 is empty your stress buckets. So we all experience stress on a day-to-day basis. That could be managing relationships with your mum and dad or your brother and sister. It could be just getting your homework done on time. It could be trying to get Zoom to work and getting your computers and your tech to work at the moment. It could be just getting up and out of bed and dressed and ready for school on time. And we each have a different ability to cope with stress. Some of us can take on lots of stress and still feel fine. And some of us, our capacity to take on stress is a little bit smaller. And if we think about that ability to cope with stress as a bucket, then lots of stress goes into the bucket during the day. And if that bucket starts to get a little bit too full, then it can overflow and we get flooded with lots of feelings that get a little bit out of control. And that's what we call emotional snapping. So that could be bursting into tears for silly reasons, or it could be, in my case, because I'm a fiery redhead, it might be losing your temper. So what we need to do, it's really important to empty our stress buckets. And that's actually quite easy to do. What we need to do is find things that make us happy, that make us feel a bit more at peace with the world. So that could be singing or dancing or praying or talking to a friend or writing in a journal or listening to some music that makes you feel happy or cooking or a really good way of emptying our stress buckets is taking some exercise, whether that be a brisk walk or kicking a ball against a wall or having a mad dance in the kitchen. Exercise is a really great way of emptying our stress buckets. And so me time is not a selfish thing. It's an important part of self-care to just set aside some time in the day to do something that makes you happy. And so just like with our bodies, we're encouraged to eat 5 fruit and veg a day. What I would love to challenge you to do is to find 5 things a day that help to look after your mind, 5 things a day that help you to empty your stress bucket. And then tip number 3 is to put your wise leader in control instead of your dumb bodyguard. What is she going on about? So our brain is essentially made up of 2 parts. Some doctors might disagree with this. I'm about to get not very technical. So you could call the first part, the scientific language is our prefrontal cortex. You could call that our wise leader. So that's the part of our brain that plans our day, that helps us to solve complicated math problems, that helps us to do a crossword, that helps us to think and reason and problem solve on a daily basis. And that is the part of our brain that is normally in control. The other part of our brain, the subcortical brain, which I'm going to call our bodyguard, is responsible for keeping us alive. So normally it's working away in the background, just making our hearts pump and our lungs breathe and just getting on with the job of us just staying alive. But when we're in danger, or if our bodyguard, which isn't too clever, thinks we're in danger, then the bodyguard can try to take over. It tries to kick us into that fight or flight response that we've talked about already. And so this bodyguard can make mountains out of molehills. It's all well and good if we come across a big scary bear in a wood, the bodyguard taking over, because we do actually just need to hightail it out of there as fast as possible. But say the thing you're worried about is an exam at school, or it's you're nervous about going on a date, or you're nervous about going back to school. Actually, those are situations in which it's better to have your wise leader in control rather than your bodyguard. But your bodyguard senses that you're a bit nervous and a bit anxious about something, so it tries to take over. And we can put our wise leader back in charge by practicing something called emotional regulation. And that could be something as simple as using a fidget toy or some kind of molding clay to kind of fiddle with, or it could be taking some exercises we've already talked about. But a really, really good way of regulating our emotions is just sitting quietly and doing some deep, slow breathing. So here's something you can practice at home. Just try breathing in really slowly for about 4 seconds, and then just hold your breath for a couple of seconds, and then breathe out really slowly for another count of around 4 seconds and hold your breath again. And then just repeat that over and over again until you start to feel a little bit calmer. So those are my 3 tips. Number 1, give yourself a break. Number 2, empty your stress bucket. Find 5 things a day that help you to do that. And number 3, put your wise leader back in control and put your bodyguard back in its place. Hope it helps.